Hello, welcome to another stream. My name is Mitch. I am building a language learning app in Unity. This video is just a stream of me working. I need to wire up some more UI. It's sort of a continuation from my previous stream, so you can go back and watch that. But this is really just hanging out, doing some work behind the scenes. Thought I'd make a video while I'm working. I'm going to be talking about code. Everything is based in Unity, so if you're a Unity developer, this might be a cool video, or if you're just interested in app development, game development, you can hang around and work alongside me. But yeah, let's get back into it. Let's jump into the code. So, all right, actually, let's just go through and remember what I was actually doing, because it's been a week since the last time I looked at this. So I've been doing some work during the week, just around fonts, nothing too crazy, but I guess the basic game mechanics is you're picking items, playing like a mini game, earning progress, and then you're increasing your experience. I guess I've been using the word progress in place of experience. So each one of these little little pills would fill up after after 3 steps. So we need to wire that up, and then if you complete 3 of them, then the little circle there will change color to indicate it's gone to the next level, which is cool. So what we were doing last time is being able to switch between all of these different navigation. So we got characters that you'll be learning, words and sentences, and then there's like a breakdown of like filtering between the different sets within each one of those. So for Japanese, we've got hiragana and katakana. The katakana, got to fix that to actually show some default characters there, but we've got the switching working, which is great. I think that's all we actually did last time, was actually get to that point where this is actually programmatically created, each one of these little pills saying what the filter subtypes are. So I don't think if I switch between languages, so obviously these filtering isn't working properly. That's a bug we need to fix up. But it's not displaying the content, which is good, because hiragana does not exist for Bulgarian, because we need to be showing Cyrillic. But everything else is working appropriately. You can see, basics. All right, so let's jump into the code and what do we want to work on first? I know that there is some tidying up we can do for the code. I think first though, I want to fix it so that we can actually see some katakana on here. And I know that the issue that I was having with that was my progress system, where by default I want not the progress system, the roadmap system, which is essentially how content gets unlocked within the app. So I want to be able to update it to say, give me some katakana there available in the beginning. So if we go up, also as well, if you've got any questions or comments or anything, just chuck them down below, and I'll be sure to address them in another stream, or just like in, I guess, the comments section. Or you can just watch previous videos as well. So how this works is we've got a roadmap, which is you do certain actions and certain things will be unlocked, but we want, here we have Cyrillic vowels, and that will just unlock them by default. But I shouldn't be looking at Cyrillic, I should be looking at Japanese, because what we want is we've got a Japanese roadmap, and hiragana is unlocked by default, just the vowels, which we just saw, and then the base, which is just basically everything else that's in the basic hiragana set. excuse me, too much chocolate. So what we want to do is essentially add in another entry in here that is for katakana vowels so that we can have some basic information there. Oh, I can duplicate. That's actually quite nice. Let's get rid of that. Look at that, dropped it right down below too. That's handy. So we want katakana vowels. We need to update this language set, which tells us what part of the language we're actually talking about. So for hiragana, just changing the set. And has it copied across the selection tags? Because we only want a subset. Yes, it has. Excellent. So in theory, if I clear away any saved data and run this, it should unlock by default. So we've got a hiragana, those are our vowels, katakana, and we've got our vowels. It all works because I'm good at coding sometimes. All right. What do we want to do next? We've got that working. We could go on to navigation between these pages at the top here, or we could do stats, or I could fix up the Bulgarian one. Let's quickly try and go and fix up the Bulgarian one for these filtering sets so we don't have that. So I think they'll look tidier. What do we need to do for that? Right, so how was this structured? If we jump into the progress scene, we have the progress controller on the very top node of the canvas. And what we want to do is check the language and then determine what would be the filter sets available. If there are no filter sets, we want to shrink down. Do we want to hide that? We probably want to do probably want to do that, but that looks kind of gross, but that will probably get us to where we need to be anyway. And then we'll have to come through with polish at some point to be like, hey, we want some like spacing in between these things. I mean, I'm sure at one point I'll probably redo the UI entirely again, but all right, well, we can do that. We can just basically turn that off. If we don't have filters, then we can just disable it, which would mean we would need a reference to the filters. We have the filter view, and I want my progress controller to know about the filter view and be able to turn it off, well, turn off that game object. And then I want to know about the vertical layout group to maybe update the spacing so it doesn't look so naff. All right, so that's what we're going to do. First thing that we need to do is have the progress controller know about the filter. So we've got the filter view, and when we come on to the scene enter, we determine based on the language what we're actually going to be looking at. This is all very hard coded in, but what we can do is if it is Bulgarian, we only have one script to show, which would be the Cyrillic script. So I'm going to remove the filtering for now until it actually makes sense, where I can actually think of other reasons to have the filtering there. Maybe there'll be filtering based on vowels, or there might be, I don't know, capitalization in different scripts or something, but we don't have any of that now. So for now, instead of building the filters in there, we can just hide it. So let's get the game object, let's set it active to false. Oh, this is not Python, sorry. Jumping between languages and day job versus at home is a little bit annoying. And we want it on for that. So when we change content, do we want to do it in the change content? Maybe we want to do it there, but it's so easy to do it here. We do it down here. Just going to do it in a gross way. There. All right, and we also want that spacing issue to go away as well. So I will need a reference. So let's drag that over, attach that. Vertical layout group. Hopefully I can update the spacing dynamically at runtime. Actually, the heading view knows about the filter view. So instead of having the progress controller directly interact with that, because that's already a child of it, I should just have the heading actually be responsible for that. And then the heading view can also have the layout group, and then the progress. Yeah, that's much cleaner. I don't want this guy's way too high up to actually need to deal with that. And it's just cluttering this progress controller with, essentially it's adapting the UI. It's nothing that's really, I mean, yeah, I want to keep the views dumb essentially. And this is kind of a basic thing, turning things on and off. So I'm kind of okay with having the views do it rather than the controller, or else the controller is just going to be doing state management that it really doesn't need to. It'll just get long. So let's move that logic out of here. And so what we want to do is just move it into this heading view. So when we populate it, what we want to do is, I'm sure eventually this will be dynamic and I'll be able to be like, oh, what language set actually has subsets within it that we need to create filters for, and if not, then just turn it off. But right now we're just basically checking directly on the language. So Japanese is the language that we currently have that does have filters. Oops, so that's going to do that. And then every other language that we add, which is currently just Bulgarian, we're just going to turn it off. That's a bit better. Tuck it away. And now we need the vertical layout group as well. Is this something I can reference? everything's public. All right, so can I update the spacing? What is that? The public float, you can set it. Excellent. So this is just going to be 0. Oops. 0, not O. This, we are going to hard code, is 50 for now. And we can publicly expose that later on, or change how we're actually structuring the UI so that isn't a problem anymore, and we can just basically turn things off and things look as they should. But yeah, in time we'll improve it. All right, let's wire that up. So looking at our progress controller, those things have gone away. Heading view is now responsible for it. So layout group, it's going to hold. Filters already does hold. And all right, let's just see if that works. It does. Look at that. Obviously, there's probably some improvements we can do around that scroll as well, disappearing too early. All small things that I'm not going to do right now because that's really just polish. But that effectively works. Let's turn off that log. I was doing some work during the week and adding in logs that are just screaming my console. How's that looking now? I wonder if we increase the spacing, it might look a little bit nicer. Yeah, I mean, it's still taking up a lot of room anyway. But if we look at this scroll view, we jump into the scene, what is actually happening? Because this is not adapting based on this other object shrinking, which we will want to do at some point. It will probably be that this is another layout group that we can do where we have this heading view and this scroll view a part of. And so when the size of this heading view changes, the scroll view can take up more room and dynamically adapt. But for now, that's good enough. Cool. All right, let's move on to, should we wire up the stats? Yeah, let's not worry about going between words and sentences because I don't have any content, any words or any sentence assets or anything to actually show on screen. So let's just go with wiring up. Let's do these characters, these progress tiles, and then that will get us at least back to where we can actually see the progress that we're making with these things. I need to add, I can just stop playing. Don't need to finish it. All right. Character progress tiles. So we do have a prefab for these. Just remind myself how it is structured. So bar and the circle, turn them off. The old view that I had was just basically 3 bars, which now we're going to do a more fancier version where we have this guy, which is basically an image of the outline, that, and the fill. And we're just going to fill in programmatically into thirds. Yeah. So what I can do is I can create a script that manages the bar, even a script that manages the circle, and then wire them up to the unlocked tile view, and then have the state trickle down into them and update accordingly. Right, let's do that. So first let's have a script that manages the bar to set it where it needs to fill on each of those 3 steps. Where do I want to put it? Scripts UI, progress. I just realized that I could actually be listening to music in the background, even though I'm not going to put any on the stream. So hopefully you guys are listening to music and not just my monotone voice. All right. That's a bit better. Not just the sound of my own voice. All right. The bar. Let's wire up the bar. So I did have an old script here for the old progress bar. I can't reuse it. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to create a new script and give it the worst name in the world. In fact, let's just delete the old stuff because we don't need it. And I'm going to delete that script so that we can steal the name. I don't know if that's actually too small on screen or not for you all to read. I'm going to assume it's right, but if it's not, please just, chuck a comment below and let me know if that's too small. Next time I'll increase the size. Because what are we rocking with currently? 18. Right, let's just carry on. So public void populate with some information. It's going to have to know about the image. So this is the fill image that we're going to be changing. And we're going to have to pass it in some information, say like the progress step. I think that's what I've called it elsewhere. Excuse me. So what happens is we get the progress step and then we say, hey, your fill amount is going to be equal to the progress step divided by 3. Converts it into a float. I think that's it for that. All right, so language progress, current tier step. That's essentially the progress step. So progress dot current tier step should be out of 3. All right, let's see if that works. That might have actually been pretty quick to wire up. I really did think that was going to take longer. I may have just jinxed myself. Cool. Missing. Reconnect you. All right. Let's see if we can get that working. Oh, cool. So yeah, we've already, it's save state previously, and we completed one of that trace, the trace for the letter A. And so we can see now it's taking a step towards making progress on it. All of the others are still 0. So if we do A again, which is like the longest character to trace, I should have picked something else. Cool. See, take another step. We're going to be updating this UI as well to look similar. And now it's on 2, like we saw in the results. So if we can do it for the other ones, I is pretty easy. Taking our first step. And it's reflecting. Cool. And so looks like I've, well, yeah, that makes sense. This is already unlocked by default, which maybe by default I won't do that when it's finally released. I'll probably progress through hiragana and then katakana. But for wiring up the UI, that's quite helpful. Let's do A again and get it to progress to the next level, and then we can wire up that colored circle. So is that 3? Yeah, so completed 3. Realistically, what would end up happening once you complete the third one is that would actually change the color of that little circle to be like, oh hey, you're actually now on the yellow tier. So that's something for me to fix up, but let's force it into the next tier. I think I need to come up with a better name than tier. So now that's showing as yellow using the old system. Now it's gone back down to completing 1. So let's wire up the circle now. So we should have 1 yellow and the rest will be white. Cool. Let's get a script for you. Everyone gets a script. give it another terrible name. Progress circle. Let's just give it the entire, now that I know that there's actually a class handling the progress state, let's just give it the entire thing. That circle is represented by a UI image. We need to change its color. What would happen is the color oh, look at that. I've already given color to this progress class. So whatever the current tier is, it'll have a tier color associated with it and just assign it. So now we need to wire it up. Pass it the progress. Just to make it clean, what I'll do is pass it the entire thing. Really not a big issue, but just makes the code a little bit nicer to look at. Tidy. Powering through this. Oh, that's right. There was an outline. What does that look like? I think initially, yeah, white is not like the default, it's actually unfilled is the default. But we'll wire that up next. What we'll do is we'll ignore the outline and just see if that general process of updating the colors is working. And then we can make it more complex. Cool. I think that should work. And it did. Be nice once the stats actually update so you can see that reflected as well. The other ones aren't showing up. That's a pain. Why is that happening? Because we haven't taken any progress towards them. I think what's happened is it's basically just set the alpha and made them invisible. That would probably be why. If we take a look at where this is being set. Yeah, the default none. So if they made no progress, it's just clear, which makes sense. Cool. All right, let's actually do it like so this is my designs. This is where I basically copy and paste and just tweak things to see what they should look like. Let's take a look at the design. I've not given myself examples, but essentially I think we just want a outline of a circle. I think other designs I actually took it away and centered it, which I do like, but maybe on the first pass we just have the outline. Yeah, since it's already there. All right, we'll just do the outline and fill it in. So what I'm going to do actually to make it simple is I'm just going to turn it off when you're above the step. That'll get us closer to where we want to be. Dum, dum. All right, where's my progress circle? We want another image reference. Here are the outline. Give me the game object and I'll turn it on and off as I please. So the information I need is in the current tier. We've got a tier type, which is all of the different levels or stages you can go through, and they have a color associated with them. So I want to check this and it'd be like, if you are none, then show the outline, otherwise turn it off. So progress, current tier, type. And if you are tier, we want you active if your tier type is none. Let's see what that looks like. Jump in. There we go. Now it's not quite behaving as I want it to, but at least it's displaying. That's cool. All right. Actually, what I want to do quickly is just turn on the other game types. So we're not just tracing every time. Game service. All right, let's make it interesting. Let's just make it random. Oops. Straight to trace. That's all working. Did it even compile, or am I just really unlucky? It's actually just guess 4. This will just make it easier to quickly progress different things. I guess A. I. Ooh. Yeah, let's check if that's working for that. Yep. Let's progress A to the next tier. Green. Oh, those greens don't match. Not the end of the world. I guess, yeah, that. Forgot about that. One color is actually hard coded. The other, well, they're both hard coded, but one's in code and one's in the editor. Something to fix up. Looking pretty good now. What should I work on next? Let's get these stats updated, because that would be pretty fun. So let's jump to the progress screen and actually reset some of this. Oh, that does center. Just wanted to give them a little bit more space. Yeah, let's just do that. What does that look like with 100? Hey. Wouldn't that be nice? All right. 0. Excuse me. Okay, so how is this structured? We've got the unlock stats. So that's 2 different views. And then these are for each one of our progress tiers. We just need to update that. We don't really need it to be super dynamic because I don't think we're going to have dynamic progress tiers where we're just making them up as we go along. They're always going to be probably a fixed amount. Not probably, there will be a fixed amount. So let's just do progress stats first. Let's create a view for it. And I'm going to create a folder to keep tidy. Cool, progress stats view. Right, our standard method. Right, we basically just have a big container, a list essentially of texts that'll match up to each one of the tier steps. So instead of, we'll do this a little bit nicely maybe. Just see. If we do a public list of, oh, is this? It's a text mesh pro, isn't it? Yep. Yep. So using TM Pro, I want a generic text mesh pro. So it's a count of each one, count of how many are in those tiers and their texts. And we'll populate that with information. We could probably, yeah, let's wire that up, see if that, it's not going to do anything, but have I made any mistakes with just that? How many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Nope, I can't reference it. What I want is TMP text. There we go. Just expand it. All right, so we've got all of the texts and we've got a view here. We know that technically part of the heading view, and there's a stats view. So the heading view, it gets the language set reference. And we need to populate with something. And basically we want to go through, get all of the language items that are a part of the set, count up how many are in each one of the tiers, and then that's our information. Now the gross way we can do it is essentially just grab a reference to all of them and then just manually go through and count. Which wouldn't be that nice. But since we're biasing towards action right now, instead of writing the cleanest code possible, maybe we just do it the most simplest way that comes to mind. So maybe I just pass it the language set. we're just going to, we're going to grab, so what are we going to do? Let's plan this out. Get all language items for this set. This stats view, we need to reference the progress stats view, which we should probably rename to be like tier stats view or something. Progress is a bit too generic. That's fine for now. This will populate with. So get all language items for the set. Get a count for each of the tiers in the set. So what we can do is we can go to the language service where all of the character information is stored. I want you to get the items associated with this language set. Oops. Get a count for each one of the tiers. So let's take a look at the item. So we've got progress step. I might have actually disconnected some of this information. So this is the language item. So language item is basically the very high level abstract, it's abstract, representation of content within the app. So every character, word, or sentence basically originates as a language item, and it has information on it of where it belongs, its own individual identifier and tag information, and then whether it is what state it's in, is it in, so that's the, holding its state. So its progress step, how many times it's actually been learnt, whether it's actually unlocked or not. So what we want is the progress step, where this progress step isn't the tier step, it's slightly different. It's basically one number, so 1 to 3 is the first tier, 4 to 6 is the second tier, and so forth, and multiples of 3. Oh, I'm getting a call. All right, pausing. All right, we're back. Sorry about the interruption. Where were we? So we're wiring up the stats, and we are looking at the language item because we're going through all of the language items and we want to count up how many are in each tier. The progress step information is on the language item, but it is in the format of a large number and not broken down into which tier they are. And so what we can do is we'll need to use the other service I've created, the progress service, to then convert that progress step into the tier number that we want, and then count them up. So let's take that out. And so we've got the items, and if we go to the progression service, let's see what information that gives us. So we can pass in the language item to the progression service. It'll take that large number, the progress step, and it'll divide it by 3, which will give us the tier. And it basically builds up a big representation of this class but we don't really want all of that information. What we want is a series of information. So what I might do, I'm not going to duplicate that. What I might do is I might just create a function where I can pass in an array of progress steps, and it'll give me out information based on how many are, what tiers they are. And that way, I sort of separate a little bit how that progress step is converted into a tier, just in case I want to change it later on. All of that logic of what actually breaks down that number is centralized and not dispersed throughout the code. So let's do that. What we would do is we'll go to the progression service and say, get me the progress stats for, and then we would give it we're going to use link. Is it system.link actually? There it is. So I want to select, I want to pull out information from this complex object and make a simple one where I just want the progress steps, and select will return me a enumerable. Just going to shove it in a to list because that just makes things a little bit type-wise nicer. So we want probably a new class called progress stats. Progression stats. Not a big deal. Just call it progress stats. And we'll pass that progress stats into the stats view, and it can display it for us. So that's, I guess, the flow. We can get rid of, go to the language service, get us the items, pass those progress steps into the progression service to get the stats for it. So each one of these services handle a little bit of the puzzle, passes it on. So let's create this function now. Ah, Mitchell. Just fat fingers. So we've got a list. Is that right? Progress step, it's an integer. We're going to return a progress stats class, which we're going to create inline here for now. This is not what I normally do, but just going to move a little bit quickly here. So we'll define it in this side of this class, return the progress stats. Let's just see if that all looks good. Who's complaining? Telling me it's too expensive. I don't care. It's going to complain all of these. Cannot access static. Let's make you static. And cool. So progress stats. Oh, that's gross. All right, we'll move it. Gotta turn off that. I don't want namespaces. It's not needed. Never instantiated. What a crime. All right. That is all red gone away. So getting a little bit cluttered. Stats view. All right. So the heading view, the stats view. I think it's given the language set as well. I don't want you there as well. You can come back if you want, but I'll get rid of you. Do not show. Cool. Stats view gets the set, pulls out all of the items because we need to get their progress step. Goes to the progression service, gives me the stats for each one of these progress steps. Steps. Give it to the view. All right. So here, sorry, my volume for myself is quite loud. The music, that is. So our logic for getting the tier so we want to for each step in progress steps run this. And I'm going to return a new progress stats. Which may have some information, may not. Let's just do that. Step. This is its tier. Now, how do we want to represent this? We could do a dictionary where the index is the tier and the count associated with it. Or we could just have a massive switch statement and a whole lot of variables. Or we could have a list of ints. Why don't we do the list approach? So that would be where this has essentially an array of tier counts. Let's just make this property. So for the tier 0, yeah, let's just do that. So what we're going to do is there's a progress tier map. And we're going to create this guy earlier. And actually I want to I basically want to create it with a count already in there. We go stats dot tier counts dot add range. Is that what I want? I think I'm just confusing myself and making it a little bit harder on myself. I think it's going to be easier if I do the dictionary way of doing this. Right, so we've got a dictionary where the tier is represented by an integer and the count is represented by the integer. And we're not going to pre-populate it. We're just going to go cool stats. Stats dot tier counts. Sorry. We're first going to check to see if it contains it already. Because if it doesn't, we want to set it. Else we want to update the count. So if it contains it, we want to basically go index it, increase it, and set it. Sorry. You need that. This is our first time doing it. We're going to set it to 1. Cool. So that should go through and count all of them up. If we don't see the tier there, it's not going to be in the dictionary, in which case everything will default to 0. So that returns out the stats. Cool. I think we have everything we need. So if we head back to the stats view, no, this doesn't look good. Whoa. That lines up. That's a little bit nicer. So now we can loop through the tier text and map it up to that dictionary and update the text accordingly. So I really don't like how it repopulates that. So the text in here, actually I don't want to do it that way because what I want is a index. So, oops, we want a basic for loop. My typing is all over the place today. What have I done? comma. Come on. Right, so this will be looking at our first tier, which will be white, so it won't be none. So let me think a little bit about how this works. So if progress step is 0, the tier will be 0. If the step is 1, we'll get that's going to the ceiling, so we'll return 1 instead of going to the 4, which will be 0, which is probably what we need to change it to fix up the issues we were seeing in the UI, where once you take one single progress step, it basically gives you the white tier, moves you to white, which is the next tier, which we don't want actually. We want to be able to walk 3 steps in the progress and then be able to jump up to this bronze tier, which is represented by white. So we'll fix that later, but for now, we at least understand that indexing here of 0 will give us the outline and not it shouldn't be filled with anything. So that'll make sense eventually. So that none state is not represented on screen. So I equals 0. What we actually want to do is we're indexing by 0, but for this progress stats, we should probably put in the helper class to actually be like get count, and we pass in the tier which would be like that, because tier 0 is actually none, and it's not actually represented on that stats bar at the top. So we could do that, but we could just basically go, this is the text, this is the tier count. So do we have a count for this key? Let's represent it by a variable. So tier equals I plus 1. If it doesn't, we'll take it. So if it does, if we do have a count for it, we can go text.text equals this yes, indexed by the tier, sorry. And we want to make it a string. I'll just do that. Otherwise, it's going to be 0. I don't need to do special formatting. I just realized that the formatting of this is actually jumped to double indent. I'll fix that later. Cool, that all makes sense. So get the progress stats. We go through the tier counts, pull out the text that we need to update, figure out which tier we're actually looking at, see if we've got a count for it. Why is that complaining? Try get value. It's fine. And then set the text appropriately. I think that would actually all work. All right, it compiled. All right, progress stats. Ugh, pronouncing everything horribly. We need to connect. All right, let's run it. Hey, look at that. So we got 1 green, 3 white. If we jump to katakana, we've got 1 white. That's cool. So it's going to progress. Come on. Silly mistake. Got 1 yellow, 1 green, 2 white. I think we'll call it a success. Yeah, I'm pretty happy with that. That seems to be working. Updating, no bugs. Switch languages, it's all 0. It's a bunch of logs that I can get rid of now. Cool. I think that's all working. Switching back. All right, I think we'll actually stop the stream there. And yeah, I've probably got a bunch of chores and other things I need to get to now. So thanks for hanging out. If you've got any questions, comments, like and subscribe, that sort of stuff, do as you please. But thanks for hanging out, and I'll catch you in the next one. And hopefully, yeah, things will start coming along. Have a good day. Bye.